Fellas, today is a great day to be an Elden Ring player. The new update, patch 1.06, just dropped, and man, is it a good one. They did almost everything we've been asking for, a lot of the major changes that we had listed on the website. This is the patch that I believe just single-handedly saved Elden Ring. Now, my last video was literally talking about what needs to be in this update in order for the player base to survive going forward, and they hit like 99% of those point for point, and man, it just feels so good. So I'm going to take you through all the patch notes today. We have a lot to get through, but first off, I want to say all the haters out there that kept telling me they weren't going to balance this game, I expect a big like on this video because y'all would not believe the level of hate I got on that last video talking about how much I wanted this update. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Elden Ring patch notes 1.06. Elden Ring notice of update distribution version 1.06. We're distributing an update to improve the stability of gameplay and to adjust balance. Y'all see that? Y'all see that word right there? FromSoftware knows what balance is. Balancing can happen in these games. I'm tired of people telling me the Souls games don't have balancing, they're not fighting games. And the patch notes of this update are gonna prove that to you. But before we talk about the balancing, we need to talk about the major changes. Additional elements added the function to send summoning signs to summoning pools in multiple areas, including distant areas. When sending co-op signs to distant areas with this function, summoning pools in Mogwin Palace will be excluded. Not exactly sure what the reason for that is, so if you know, leave it down in the comments below. But here's the big one. Added the function to invade a larger area, including distant areas. This is probably the biggest change on the patch notes today. This little point right here just made all of the difference. The biggest problem that was going on with Elden Ring that was making the multiplayer pools diminish so fast was that in order to play multiplayer, you had to be at the right checkpoint at the right time in order to line up with somebody else's game that was also hitting the parameters to be invaded. And when you have an open world like Elden Ring with hundreds and hundreds of checkpoints at a time and an ever dwindling player base, you can see how this would be a problem. But how this new invasion system works is that now when you try to use a bloody finger, you will get a prompt that says invade nearby only or both near and far, which is absolutely amazing for us invaders because you can still target the areas you want to invade at, but it's no longer going to be a guessing game to decide which graces are going to be active or not, and I think that is phenomenal. But the next change is also really cool. Added a new way to advance White Mask Vare's questline other than participating in multiplayer invasion by defeating a new NPC. Now I know a big point of contention that a lot of people had with Vare's questline was that it was online only, and if you wanted to get to Mogwin Palace, you had to wait till the end of the game in order to go through a portal, and I know that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but now you have an alternative. Instead of having to invade other players, you can now seek out an NPC named Magnus the Beastclaw, who you can kill in order to progress the questline. Now I won't spoil where to find him, but I am hearing that it's pretty cool. So I think this is a really good change, perhaps how it should have been in the first place. But now we get to the fun stuff. The real juicy part of this update that I know is going to tick a lot of people off but make people like me who are really into the game very, very happy. Let's break down the balancing changes point by point. Starting off with changes to great swords, curved great swords, and great hammers. Reduce the time it takes for rolling to become possible after an attack. Jump attacks, dual wield attacks, and attacks while mounted not included. Now I thought great swords and great hammers were in a pretty good place already, but I think these changes are pretty necessary. Increase the motion speed of strong attack and charge attack mounted attacks not included. Increased guard counters motion speed. Increase the attack speed of great axes and reduce the time it takes for rolling to become possible after an attack. And increased rolling distance when a player has a light equip load. So basically strength weapons are going to be a little bit faster across the board, and I'm always down for that. Increase the hitbox of Cypher Pata's weapon skill Unblockable Blade. This was needed. Increase the range of Ash of War Glintstone Pebble and Glintstone Dart projectile while decreasing the damage and stagger power. This was also very needed. Glintstone Pebble was pretty broken. It was one of the only things in the game that can always give you a true combo if landed, and people were dishing out like over 2,000 damage a combo and just one-shotting everybody. But now we get to the real controversial part. Decrease the travel distance and invincibility frames of Ash of War Bloodhound Step while adding the changes below. Reduce performance when used continuously and increase travel distance when on light equip load. Thank you, God. This was single-handedly the one Ash of War that was ruining the entire game. Because as much as people were saying it wasn't broken, it undeniably was. As long as you had stamina and FP, Bloodhound Step rendered you completely invincible. You could not take damage in any form whatsoever, and there was no cooldown, so you could spam it as long as you wanted. But now you actually have to play the game. So it's going to be interesting to see a lot of people still trying to rely on Bloodhound Step, but now it can be countered. So definitely an amazing and welcome change there. But they're also giving you a bit of an alternative. Shorten the activation interval when using Quick Step skill in succession, increasing its ability to circle around the enemy when locked on, and add the changes below. Reduce performance when used continuously, increase travel distance when on light equip load. So it's going to work a bit better, but you're going to get punished for spamming it, which I think is how these skills should work in the first place. But here we go with another big change. Decrease the damage and bleed buildup of weapon skill Corpse Piler when hit with the blood attack. When hit by the blade, the damage is only slightly decreased. Once again, thank God for this change. Rivers of Blood was single-handedly the best weapon in the game, and it wasn't even close, because all you had to do was press one button and the game was being played for you. Its existence single-handedly nullified pretty much all other bleed weapons and skills, so for it to get nerfed and allow other weapons to come into play as well, I think is a great thing. Decrease the target tracking ability of sorcery Stars of Ruin. This is also an amazing change. Stars of Ruin was a spell that on its own didn't do a whole lot of damage, but it was impossible to dodge, and it could be spammed indefinitely. So now that they lowered the tracking a little bit, it's going to make it more manageable to go up against. Now those were all the balancing changes we got in this update, and while I still think there are more that need to be balanced, such as crouch poking and the fingerprint great shield, this did address the extreme outliers, and I believe did enough to where multiplayer is going to feel much better now. The update also included a ton of bug fixes which I think are great, and I'm going to break down the biggest ones, such as the helmet swap glitch, which is now patched, which allowed players to exploit a glitch in the Lazuli crowns and give themselves infinite health regen, and a glitch with the deathbed dress that was allowing players to hurt themselves and cast debuffs on cooperative phantoms. But all in all, patch 1.06 did exactly what we needed it to, but there is still room to go. I am still hopeful of the arenas coming to the game, a designated PvP area, and I believe poise still needs to be adjusted across the board. But this is a massive step in the right direction. But I need to address something big. I believe this update was only possible because of the community outcries, but the amount of hate towards people that wanted an update like this was insane. Multiplayer in Souls games is not an afterthought. It is not ungrateful for wanting balancing changes to happen. This balancing does not ruin the PvE in any form or capacity. FromSoftware had specifically asked for community feedback regarding what they could make in updates in the future, and that is what we sought to give them. I believe these changes are going to make Elden Ring feel much better for everybody that plays it, and allow for much more creativity when it comes to builds for multiplayer and for PvE. But I'm excited to hop into Elden Ring and test out the new invasion feature, and I hope this update encourages a lot of you to hop back into Elden Ring that have dropped it because of the balancing in the past. But with all that out of the way, let me know if you liked the update, leave a like on the video if you're excited about these changes, and subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you in the next one.